Hi friends, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I will be setting up my October reading journal. Now I know this video is coming to you a little bit late, but as I was editing, my video originally crashed and then I almost wanted to throw my computer in the trash. But here we are now. I took a deep breath and then now I'm ready to finally post this video that's been taking forever to make. This was a really good reading month for me. I read 9 books, which is quite a lot to be honest, but I felt like this month I finally came out of my reading slump, and so I had some really good reads that just made me fall back in love with reading again. I used the pink Tombow dual brush to color in the books for this month. I didn't read any new letters of the alphabet, so I just skipped right over that. I am way past my reading goal as of this month, but I always decide to have a little bit of a bonus read because I always go over my goal, and this just makes me feel a little bit more productive. So this month brings my total to 65 books read. I managed to fill in one more square in my book bingo, which was the non-binary genderqueer author or character. And the book I read for that square was Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. My favorite book this month was The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst, and I cannot wait to talk to you about it. 3 of the books that I read this month I owned a physical copy of, so I could finally color them in my never-ending physical TBR list. I hit 2,050 subscribers on YouTube, so yay, go me! Thank you so much for subscribing, guys. Next spread is where I keep track of all of the books that I read from my historical fiction book club. Now I lost footage when setting up the cover page for this month, but it's basically just scrapbooking paper that I received in a Halloween pack from Coco Daisy. Oh, I think this was like last year, yeah. The first book that I read this month is Clytemnestra by Costanza Casati. This story focuses on what Clytemnestra would have experienced at different key events of her life, mostly her relationship with various men and the death of her daughter. The author did a good job at building up the anger, the frustration, the unjustness that Clytemnestra goes through. She puts a modern spin to the story by rewriting some of its chapters. We can see how intergenerational trauma and how it affects people, sometimes making them hostages to their family history. At the same time, the book manages to convey an atmosphere of ancient Greece. We can imagine ourselves in the royal palace in Messenia, cold despite the sun shining outside, or watching helots working in the fields of Sparta in a windy day. Now, while I enjoyed the book, I did find it a little bit boring at times, and so it wasn't really my favorite read this month. In terms of the spread, I wanted it to be kind of vintagey, and so I used a lot of distressed ink to rough up the edges of the scrapbooking paper and as well my actual journal paper, just to give it a little bit more of a brownish hue to it. I then went in with my Tombow dual brush to do the lettering for the title. I didn't plan for space exactly, and so I had to cram up the letters by the end of this spread. So it wasn't really like my prettiest lettering, but it's just a title. It does the job. I've been using a star stamp lately with my reading journals, and I kind of like it a little bit more than a sticker because it doesn't add much bulk to the journal, obviously. However, I do have star stickers still in case I make an error with my rating and then I just have to like write on top of it. So I guess the stickers have their own good benefits as well. So this was my spread for Clytemnestra. I used my Baron Fig pen to kind of do an outline on the title, and then I used it as well for writing the journaling part. The next book I read in October is After the Forest by Kel Woods. This is a retelling of Hansel and Gretel. 20 years after the children pushed the old crone into the oven, and the siblings are still struggling to get by in the aftermath of their traumatic childhood and a brutal war, because Hans has a gambling problem and is deeply in debt. Greta is keeping them aloof because she's baking and selling the best gingerbread in the land. She stole the witch's talking grimoire when she escaped, and it has whispered the secret recipe for the addictive gingerbread in her ear. This dark retelling to the sibling story has all of the ingredients you'd expect from an adult fairy tale: witches, wolves, and bears, snow, crimson red apples, and blood. It touches upon little hints of fairy tales such as Snow White and Red Rose or Rumpelstiltskin. I like the addition of historical events and real places in this book. In terms of my spread for this book, I used a bear sticker from the Antiquarian sticker book. This sticker book I've had for quite some time, but I hardly ever use it. And I was pleasantly happy when I saw the little bear figure, and so I thought it would be great with this spread specifically. The scrapbooking paper for the girl's background is from a scrapbooking paper that I was gifted, so I don't remember or know exactly where it's from. And then the little girl is from London Gifties. It's part of one of their pet tapes that I got as a free sample a while ago. I'm also using the alphabet stickers from Sticky Club Sheet, and I just wrote Once Upon a Time because of the fairy tale theme that this book has. I then went in with my gold Jelly Roll pen, and I just did a little bit of sparkles here and there just to fill up the empty space a little bit. So that was my spread for After the Forest. The next book I read was The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst, and this is also my favorite book of the month, and it's just perfect. It's like the perfect cozy fairy tale. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like a warm hug on a cold October day. It was very fitting for this month. Originally, I thought I wanted to use a bunch of those mushroom stickers, but the more I went with it, I just decided to use watercolors. I wanted to paint a little piece of the book, which was the cottage of Keela and Kaz. Now, I'm no watercolor expert. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just putting paint to paper at this point and hoping for the best. And obviously, like, this isn't perfect, but I really love how cozy the colors are, and the entire thing turned out to be so adorable. This book is exactly what I wanted out of a cozy fantasy romance. It's precisely the right amount of coziness and small town vibes, but with high enough stakes that there is an engaging plot and a cute slow burn romantic subplot. Also, the main character has a sentient spider plant named Kaz as a companion. This book follows Keela and Kaz as they flee the city and political unrest to her childhood home in a small island. Keela had been a librarian and brought with her crates of forbidden spellbooks to save them. She's not great with people, but she's going to have to learn to be, what with a handsome neighbor dropping by to be helpful and all. In order to survive, she decides to open a gem shop from her cottage, which, secretly, she was offering useful but illegal spells as remedies to do things like heal trees and make berry bushes grow. It's incredibly delightful and one of my favorite things I've read this year. Like, it just made me feel like, screw capitalism. I just want whatever this is, which is just like a cute shop where I sell spells and make jam, and a hot man builds me floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. I mean, what more do you want? This book definitely needs to be a Pixar movie. It would be so freaking cute. thought it would be cute to have a little wooden board hanging out of the tree, and I would use that as a way to keep track of my book cover, as well as like my rating star, plus other metrics that I track, such as when I started a book, when I finished it, the author, and the genre. At the door of the cottage, I went in and wrote Kila and Kaz's really illegal spell shop, and the fine print was that will likely get you killed or cursed. And this was a quote from the book, and I thought it was very cute and funny, and so I figured I would just call it that. I use gouache to spell out the title at the top, the Spellshop. I was originally going to use like an acrylograph or a jelly roll, but they somehow blend in with the watercolor and it doesn't really look very obvious, and so I thought gouache would be the best way to do it. And then I went in and outlined the title just to make it stand out a little bit more. So this was my spread for the Spellshop. I hope you enjoyed it. I had so much fun doing it. As I turned the page around, I noticed that the watercolor had bled through a little bit, and there was also a little bit of wrinkling. Well, not a little bit, a lot of wrinkling, which is to be expected with watercolors. It was just a little bit upsetting, and so I decided to move on to the fourth book spread instead of continuing on the third one for now. The fourth book was Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. This is a lesbian romance with equal amounts of humor and tragedy. Two small-town childhood best friends turned enemies, turned opposites attract soulmates, are finally forced to spend time together and heal their old wounds when their shared queer elder and teacher mentor tells them he has terminal cancer and wants to do a cross-country road trip to die in a cabin he owns on the other coast in Maine. I used my Posca markers to color in the minivan in this gorgeous 70s teal, and then I went in with my Tombows to do the road that they're taking. I tried to keep the colors similar to the book cover. So they end up doing a cross-country road trip in a minivan which has the words queer cuddles written all over it, and it's the gayest van you'll ever see. Now, I forgot to write down the exact quote that is embedded in the van, so I just went with queer cuddles, but if anybody remembers or knows, please let me know, because I regret not saving it and then I could not find it anywhere else afterwards. The story deals with heavy subjects that would touch your heart. It's about death, addiction, sobriety, coming out, navigating gay identity, but also about parental neglect, abandonment, anxiety, and damage passed on generationally. I used my white gouache paint to write out the title of the book on the highway. It's like a highway to heaven kind of thing. So I didn't write the review for this book just yet. I will get back to it after I finish the spread for my third book, which is The Wedding People. For this spread, I decided to use my SimplyGilded washi tape. This was one of her passport washi tapes from a while ago. I think it was main washi tape if I remember correctly. And then I used the skinny washi tape to add a little bit more flair. I really love her skinny washi tapes. They're so freaking cute and I use them in almost every spread. The florals and the girl, those are pet tape from London Gifties. So this book follows a woman named Phoebe who, after life has beaten her down quite some time, she decides to finally take a vacation that she deserves, and that's when she ends up in Rhode Island. When she arrives at the inn in Rhode Island, she notices that she is the only outcast that doesn't belong to the wedding party. As the story evolves, we see Phoebe transform from a depressed and constricted individual to a disarming, honest personality that touches people. This was an enjoyable character study covering themes such as suicide, infertility, abandonment, life goes on, sexuality, and relationships. And everything else going on with the wedding party adds a little touch of lightness and humor to the book. So this was my spreads for the wedding people, and here we go again. The next book I read is Andorra by Peter Cameron. This book follows Alexander Fox, an American who arrives in Andorra to begin a new life. He knows nothing about the country except that he once read a book on beauty, peace, and solitude to be found in this almost mystical place. And I kind of get it. I would probably move to something like that too, depending on what I read about a book. So this is a mystery novel, and while initially you want to be in Andorra with the narrator, as you read on, the glass comes off both the country and him. To say that it becomes nightmarish is overstated, but gradually you feel yourself pulling away from him and watch his life unravel from a safe distance instead of basking in the sun at a cafe with him. For this spread, I'm using washi tape from the washi tape shop, and I'm an affiliate with them as well, so feel free to check them out, and I'll have a discount code for you in my description. And then the skinny washi tape is from SimplyGilded, and then the jar pet tape, that is from London Gifties. I'm using my Tombos to letter the title of the book. And I feel like I've been really loving this layout lately where I write out the title of the book as a header with some kind of lettering. I feel like I'm going to continue keeping this layout for any future book reviews. The next book I read in October was We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. And this is like a horror gothic book, so I felt it was very fitting for the month of October. I had seen this book all over my social media accounts, but I just wasn't a huge fan of it for some reason. This book follows the Blackwood sisters, 28-year-old Constance and 18-year-old Mary Catherine. They live in a big old house on the outskirts of town. They are fitfully persecuted by the locals who are convinced one of them is a murderer. Their whole family was poisoned with arsenic 6 years ago. Now, the 3 survivors, along with their black cat Jonas, are living together in deliberate tranquility when long-lost cousin Charles arrives on their doorsteps, barely concealing his interest in the lovely Constance and the Blackwood family estate. I enjoyed the gradual creep of the story, and the prose was delicious and sometimes amusing, but it fell a bit short. I expected to feel a little bit more spooked. There was a twist to the story that came as no surprise, and I imagined a more thrilling finish. All the stickers I'm using in here are from Sticky Club. This was one of their previous sheets that was in one of their subscription boxes. I don't remember exactly which one. And then the girl pet tape at the top right, that is from London Gifties. For the title header, I'm using a combination of a Tombow brush as well as a white jelly roll pan for the black part of the spread. I really love the combination of the white and black not right next to each other, so I feel like I need to do that a bit more often in my reads. I then added a few sparkles with my white jelly roll. So those were my spreads for Andorra and We Have Always Lived in the Castle. Okay, we have 2 more spreads. I feel like this editing has been taking forever, so I'm finally glad that we're almost done, almost there. So the next book is Spectacular by Stephanie Garber, and this is kind of like a novella in the Caraval series, and it came out just in time for the Christmas season, and I really enjoyed it. I miss being in that world, and so seeing all the characters back again, it was really cute. And then I did audiobook for this one, and I kind of wish that I had done the physical book because I saw that it had some very gorgeous illustrations throughout, so I need to buy the book as well. I'm just waiting for like Fairloo to announce their special editions because I hate buying both like a regular edition as well as a special edition, and I feel like this books would be gorgeous as a special edition. So yeah, I'm just waiting out on that at this point. But the audiobook was also really good. Like it had a lot of like sound effects and all kinds of stuff. So I recommend doing both, the physical and the audiobook. It was different experiences. So for this spread, I'm using washi tape from SimplyGilded as well as pet tape from London Gifties. For the title, I tried to mimic the font that the book has that says Spectacular, and I really like how it came out. Obviously, it's not perfect, but I don't know. I enjoy it. It's cute, and it added something extra to the spread. And I'm just using my gold jelly roll to color in the font. And the last book that I read is River East, River West. This was the monthly pick for my historical fiction book club, and I really enjoyed this one. So this book is told in dual perspectives, following 2 different timelines of the main characters, Alva, Lu Feng, and Sloane. Beginning in 2007, readers meet Sloane's daughter, Alva, who desires to leave China for the US, but settles on attending the American school in Shanghai after Sloane marries their Chinese landlord, Lu Feng. What follows is an interesting insight to race, culture, class, and what it means to feel in between different aspects of one's identity. One thing that stood out is the way the author juxtaposes the two entirely different worlds, the nuances of the local Chinese community in which she grew up versus the glitz and glamour of the expat community, presenting both realistically to the point that it felt immersive. I love the way the author writes about the fruitless wish Alba felt to be American, to live in American suburbs and to do American things with American people while being in an American family. My younger self needed to read that. Seeing idyllic American families portrayed on screen and in front of us at school, I grew up watching all those shows, and my biggest wish was to be like Serena and Blair. The book also touches on the feeling of belonging to neither group, which I struggle with a lot. For this spread, I'm using all pet tape from SimplyGilded. So those were all of my spreads for the month of October. Here is the final flip through of everything.